Well, thank you very much for tuning in to see the whole story, really, of Hartford Blooms Heritage Tours, garden tours, and a lot more. We'd love to have you come in person. If you can't make it in person, here's a great video tour of a lot of the things that we do. 9 years ago, we did the first tour. So this is the 9th year of our great tours, Hartford Blooms tours. And we've got a schedule coming next year that you can't beat. It's going to be 7 different days of tours. A weekend, better part of a week, and then another weekend. And again, we have limited capacity on these tours, but they're going to be terrific. Plus, the bonus will be, you come on a tour in the morning, have a nice leisurely lunch, then we'll identify a great afternoon trek that you go on your own. So you can have a wonderful vacation in Hartford, whether it be a one-daycation or a couple days or a whole week of great things in the city of Hartford. We're going to offer those next June. All the details are on this sheet. Let me show you, get it straight. All the details are on this sheet. Just take a look. Again, keep in touch, and you'll see the sign up form and all that will come in a little while. But you keep on our website. Again, it's hartfordblooms.gdn. G for good, D for dummy like me, and N for Nancy Reagan, I guess. Anyhow, we'd love to have you along on our tours next year. One more piece of information that I'd like to show you. We have 2 wonderful books that in the beginning, these are a little old, but they're still very, very, very up to date. This was our first year, this booklet. And some of the information in this booklet is priceless. I mean, we put it together, and Andy Hart, who does our design, did a heck of a beautiful job. This is, everybody should have a copy of this and the other one I'm going to show you. For example, you get to see wonderful walking tours of the West End of Hartford. These are great walking tours you can do anytime. Just get the booklet and take a look, and it'll be terrific. You can do these things anytime. And in both of these booklets, there are all kinds of things you can do whenever you'd like to do them. Anytime during the year, you can come and see great things in Hartford. The other one was the year later, 2015. This has some beautiful things in there you would never realize until you actually got the booklet and took a look. A good example I'm going to show you right now is a walk in the park. It explains our park system in Hartford, our terrific park system. People don't realize Hartford had this ring of parks done back in the 1890s, where all these very wealthy individuals gave away their land. By Reverend Bushnell pushed that, and other civic leaders talked these guys into giving their land away to make the great parks: Keney Park, Goodwin Park, Pope Park, Elizabeth Park. All were huge pieces of land given by their owners to the city, all in the same time frame. And they're all very well explained in this booklet. Now, all you can do is send me maybe $10 for shipping and handling. And you can email us. It's MikeM1944@AOL.com. Get information there. Or again, hartfordblooms.gdn. Or even give me a call, and I'll be glad to send you a couple of books. If you need a bunch of them for a group, I'll be glad to work that out. But shipping and handling about $10 for the 2 booklets. Then you're on our list forever, and you'll get all kind of stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching. Glad to have you aboard, and we'll see you, I hope, next spring. Late summer, early June, a great time to see Hartford bloom. Thank you very much. Here's where our adventure begins today. Hartford Blooms Heritage Tour 2020. We're taking a walk down Ashley Street between Ashley and Huntington Streets, where about a decade ago, 14 landscape architects and a lot of neighbors and a lot of helpers and a lot of friends got together to change the whole neighborhood in one day May 1st. It was spectacular. All these homes, with the help of the Hartford provided the money, the architects provided the real knowledge, and we guys got in there and did the work. I used to live in this street way back when, and I had a house here. It was a grand place to live. We had a great time. But it never looked like this. Over the last almost 10 years, all these plants have matured. Most of the houses have been fixed up pretty well. So this street now is a desired street in the city of Hartford. At one time, this whole neighborhood was in pretty tough shape. But with the help of Northside, more than help, the direction and money and effort of Northside Institute Neighborhood Alliance, we've got a nice neighborhood in Hartford, Ashley Street. So today on the tour, you'll be able to walk all the way down the street to Huntington, see a couple of houses in Huntington, and then go over to Hawthorne. So that's our plan. So anyway, you're going to see this in a video. Someday you'll come on the tour with me if you'd like. We'll be doing them quite often. And you can actually see all the wonderful progress made on Ashley Street, Huntington Street, and Hawthorne. Again, great credit to Nina. Yeah, Mike McCauley again. Here we are in what's called Huntington Heights. Now, there's a little history to this. Back when I was down at City Council, this was a beat-up apartment building causing all kinds of problems. Well, of course, the apartment's gone, and the land was sold to the fellow next door. The fellow next door made, as you can see, a garden right in the middle of the city. It's a pollinator garden, with all kinds of flowers and weeds and so on to bring the bees, bring the birds, and be a nice place to just sit. In the middle of the city, you would think you were in the Adirondacks. It's called Huntington Heights because there's the Heights, right on Huntington Street. Again, with a whole row of beautiful trees and a hump of land, and behind it, a pollinator garden that has several very nice features. The fellow that put this together did a great job. Well, maybe 20 years ago, and over the 20 years, every year does something a little different. Well, you'll see it on the tour. It's part of the tour. We'll come back here. Now, these are one of the places that you really have to go with me. It's private property. Some of the places, of course, you'll see on the tour, you can go anytime, like Ashley Street, we just seen. And I'd love to have you come and see Huntington Heights. Ain't it great? So as we stand on Ashley Street, Nina, Northside Institute Neighborhood Alliance, doing a great job restoring old homes, but they build new ones. And you've seen a couple of new ones over on Huntington Street, and now we see the new homes on Hawthorne. Hawthorne Street is where Katharine Hepburn lived, Mark Twain lived, right behind us. Mark Twain and Katharine Hepburn both lived right up this street. In fact, we're only around the corner from the big Mark Twain house. Anyway, this will be part of the tour. This tour will be the first time anyone of the public has seen these two houses. These now who have fit into the neighborhood, this whole area is going to change. This whole area at one time, you wouldn't really go anywhere near it. It was kind of abandoned, kind of rough looking, and now we have two brand new homes that'll be sold, I think, right away, and they're going to build more homes. So we'll continue our tour on to our next stop. local parish priest. You see that sign? October 31st. That'll be one of the biggest events ever held here. And there's been a lot of big events here. Over the years, various governors have been buried out of here, and notables in Hartford, and a lot of common people. My wife was on the funeral ministry, which came to be because so many of our older parishioners died with nobody. They might have had a niece in Chicago or somewhere, you know? And the funeral ministry would give a way out for some people of very limited means. And even people who had a lot of money had no relatives or anything, so the funeral ministry puts on a very nice funeral. And anybody who's involved really appreciates it. And also they help, sometimes there's a big group of people from all over the place, they have no idea what to do. The funeral ministry will help them. Usually do funerals out of that altar, and if it's a big enough group, they use the whole place. And Nick Carbone, for example, a famous Hartford politician, was buried here. And I was on a tour group, and as we drove by, people were going in. And I pointed out the various political notables coming in. People were amazed, you know. So anyway, that's one of the largest organs in New England, probably the largest. That's Christ the King. And when the sun comes in there, it bathes. When the sun's just right, this whole thing is bathed with the light. It's not leaded, that's cement. To hold those windows together is cement. And the cement is actually part of the superstructure. Actually helps hold the building up. These windows hold the building up. It's about 300 feet or so from the very top there. And then across is another so many feet. And you can get to it, as I say, it's 100 feet like this and 150 feet like this to get up to the cross. And I've done it half a dozen times. Ezekiel Melendez is our organist. He's known worldwide. He brings in people from all over the world because he's in that circle of famous musicians, and people come here to do their recitals, and people come here to perform all the time. It's really wonderful. A little town like Hartford, we get the best. Of course, the reason for stained glass windows went back to the early days, medieval times, when they couldn't read. The average Joe like us couldn't read. It was only the clergy and the nobles that could read, but they could see pictures and into oral tradition. So the oral tradition and the Gospels are all the way around here. And if you study them, you follow the Gospels from beginning to end. It's pretty cool, really neat. Peter's a sacristan, and the Polish guy who's in New Britain does a great job. There goes our priest. Oh, I missed him. It looks like confession's over. So now that confession's over, I'm going to take you to a place you can't go if you're not with me or with the pastor. So let's take a little walk. I'm going to show you something you'll never forget.
That's old cathedral also behind you. That's that picture.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's good. As you know, this is the Archbishop's cap. So you have a simple little room is where the Archbishop, who's, we're the 21st in the country, I think.
Yes.
We're number 21 in size, and very well respected because we've been around a long time. And we usually get the Archbishop, so we get a pretty high poll. And they've made history, a lot of them. Well, that simple cap represents the Archbishop. Here we go, these simple rooms, I'll never forget, my wife was in the choir when the Archbishop wasn't around and they had to use the bathroom. Frank Klasik would say, use the Archbishop's bathroom. Well, this is it. Here we are in the Archbishop's room. And when you see all this about Father McGivney, they'll be using this room from all over the world. They'll be here.
Wow.
Again, the nights are about 3 million.
Wow.
In Philippines, Japan, everywhere, Korea. We get a book called The Columbia comes to us, and they have stories about the whole world. We'll be in Columbia with the flowers we're going to plant.
Okay.
I called Gary, state deputy, because make sure when you plant the flowers we're going to plant of the colors of the Knights of Columbus, that we take some good pictures, and he'll get it in Columbia.
That's right.
It'll go worldwide. But it'll be on TV. I mean, it won't be just Catholic TV. It'll make news.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be something. All right, we'll keep moving. We got one more to see.
So go on that side.
We'll go this way. are on the tour taking our lunch break. We're really tough because we got to fit it between 1 and 2 o'clock today. But I'll tell you, this course is beautiful. We'll have a few shots of it. And we set up a service so they bring the sandwiches right out. We'll have a drink and back on the road to our next adventure. We went all over town. We had a great old time. This particular tour was morning and afternoon. Or actually, you can do the tours practically any time. If there's a group that needs some help or a bunch of people get together, we can do the tours. We do have tours coming this fall, this winter, and next spring. It's all on our website, Hartford Blooms. G for Gary, D for dummy like me, and Nancy. Hartford Blooms GDN. And you can see everything. Well, certainly this video is what you're seeing now. And you come to that website, you'll see everything. Or you can call me anytime. My wife says, don't give out the number, but I will. My number is 860-422-7937. Or our office number, which is 860-296-6128. And generally we'll have some information. Sometimes the phone won't ring, sometimes they'll be busy, and you can just do it again. Anyway, my personal email is MikeM1944, give away my age, MikeM1944 at AOL.com. And that's what we do. So it'll be great. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're watching, and keep watching.
Hi, we are lucky to know Mr. McGarry and the wealth of his experiences and history and so many other things. We had a wonderful time today. I'm looking forward to a nice beer with this beautiful meal. And I want to drink over with Mr. McGarry also.
Well, it's a very beautiful day here at Keney Golf Course, and it's a pleasure to be on this tour of the gardens. And I'm with 3 lovely ladies, so it makes it even nicer.
Cotton hose and suspenders from Middletown. They could dine on silverware from Meriden or tinware from Berlin. The Parker Coffee Mill to grind their brews, also made in Berlin. Sit in Hitchcock chairs, they're still around. Celebrate with a swig of Enfield cider brandy. Smoke a cigar with a Windsor wrapper. Clean your teeth with a Comstock Ivory toothpick. Made out of, I read it in this book, they took tusks and they made toothpicks out of ivory tusks. Oh, wow. They were $80 a tusk back then. You can't even buy them now. Put on a Danbury hat.
I came on the tour today because, first of all, I come from Hartford. I grew up in the Frog Hollow, so I was with Hartford for 46 years. But there are parts of it that I haven't seen, including right here, Keney Park. And I told Mike that my grandmother, one funny story, everybody drank water in Keney Park at maybe in the 1920s from one tin cup attached to a water fountain, and everybody drank out of the same cup. She did live to be 90 years old, so I guess it was okay. Thank you. Great day today.
Howe's common pins were in Connecticut developed, common pins. They used to make them by hand. They used to make common pins by hand until one of this guy Howe figured out a machine to make common pins. They went from a few hundred a day to thousands a day in a very short time. Of course, you could. They had a Wilson right down the road here. Wilson, maybe 2 miles away, made sewing machines. Now you could, of course, look up words in Noah Webster's dictionary, printed in Hartford, under a Waterbury kerosene or whale oil brass lamp. Does anybody remember why they had used kerosene? Because they killed all the whales. They couldn't find whales. Get it in the middle of 1850-60, they'd go to the South China Sea to get whales.
We had a wonderful tour today with our good friend Mike McGarry. We saw things in Hartford that we did not know existed, including Mount Trashmore. Fun trip, recommended to anybody. Hartford's blooming, and we recommend that anybody who gets an opportunity to take a tour, take the opportunity to do it.
Well, here we are in Mount Trashmore. This is Hartford's covered landfill. Now, this was a dump, a literal dump, many years ago back in the 50s, 1950s. And it was everything you can think of dumped here. Some stuff they never wanted to talk about. Well, it was covered over with dirt, then covered over with ash, and finally covered over with various filaments to contain everything here. If it wouldn't be contained, it would be very dangerous because this land would slope and fall. What you have here is multiple covers that cover the ground, and now on the top of this astroturf I'm standing on, 32 acres of astroturf, is a plastic filament. The plastic filament is to protect the water. When the water comes, the water gets drawn off. The water is drawn off and it won't collapse. If it wasn't, it would all kind of be contaminated and cause all kinds of problems. Well, I have a photo of it before it was finished. Imagine this, $30 million worth of work went into this to cover this landfill. 106 acres, of which the top is 32, the rest is slope or bird sanctuary. There's a lot of elements to this particular piece of land. One, of course, is the idea that it has to be covered for safety. The methane gas and other odors would be pretty bad if they didn't take care of them. So all those little humps that we see, all those behind me, the kind of spaceman looking things, they're to draw off the gas. We also have developed over the years in 2008 all these very, at the time, up-to-date solar panels. Today they're kind of old now. There's new ones coming, I guess. There's a plan to put all kinds of new solar panels up here. Now, when you take this trip, you get to see some fascinating views, which hardly anybody has ever seen unless they've come with us on these tours, Hartford Blooms tours. For example, looking over to the other side, you see all those woods? That's East Hartford and East Windsor and the small mountains of eastern Connecticut, way over on the side. Now, if you look all the way up there, all the way up by 91, you can see Mount Tom. Mount Tom is actually north of Springfield. It's a long way. And if you look over to the left a little bit, you see the Fuller Brush building. Now, young people wouldn't know what that's all about, but there used to be the Fuller Brush man that would go around. And the story is, we were told this story on one of the tours, that young men would go around with their case, show brushes to ladies, usually ladies at home, and if a brush wasn't perfect, they would get the need for the brush, bring it back to the factory, have that brush made, and bring it back the next day. My God, we wouldn't do that anymore. And another terrific view is the view of downtown. And of course, now you'll see a truck. That's our public works truck. You see an odd view of downtown that you wouldn't normally ever see, all from the top. And coming around, looking between those two buildings over there, you'll see the Hanging Hills of Meriden, kind of off to the left of downtown. Plus a fantastic use of this land now, being all covered over with the astroturf, and under it it's covered to stop the smells or any other problems. So here we are. So you come along on any of our tours to see Mount Trashmore, you get an experience you'll never have any other way. We'd love you to come. Just watch our schedule. Watch hartfordblooms.gdn, G for Gary, D for W like me, and N for Nancy. Always check it out. You'll see when we're coming up here, and I'll tell you, it's an experience of a lifetime. Here's how it looks from the air. Imagine that. If you fly over this, that's what you'll see. You come up here, you'll see these things in person. But you don't smoke, you don't touch anything, because if you smoked, you might just blow us all up. There's methane gas up here. Can't smell it, but that doesn't mean it's not here. And also, we had to stay away from all of the materials like the pumps, and we had to stay away from the solar panels. But you get to see something you'll never experience any other way. I want to introduce you to Herb Burgo. He's put together a wonderful deal here. I'm not going to tell you anything because he knows a lot more than I do about everything. Herb, come on, tell the story.
So my name is Herb Virgo. I'm the executive director and founder of the Keney Park Sustainability Project. We're in Keney Park now, obviously. Keney Park is 693 acres of urban forest. Our project, located at this site, is actually the Urban Agriculture and Education Program. So we teach community members about urban agriculture and also forest management. Under the urban agriculture umbrella, we teach beekeeping, maple tapping, animal husbandry, composting, aquaponics, hydroponics, gardening, and a bunch of other things. I have to look around the site to actually remember all of the different stuff that we do here. But our overall goal is to reconnect people to the healing power of nature, and we use all these different activities as a draw to get people into the programming. The majority of the people or the students or the community members that use this site come from local schools, local community-based organizations, but we also see kids from Avon Old Farms and Miss Porter's and as far away as University of Vermont. They have an upper bound program that comes down as well. Our site here, this garden is actually maintained by our master gardener, Connie Bird, who is here today, which is awesome. The majority of our produce gets sold to the Hartford school system. So the kids will come here, learn how to grow, they'll actually plant seeds and learn how to start their own garden, but then they also get the produce on their trays in the school as well, which is pretty cool. So they learn the whole cycle of growing. We started 2016, we're 4 years old, and we just continue to grow each year. We started with an 8x4 raised bed, and every year we just added on more projects, and it just kind of took on a life of its own. But we sell maple syrup, we sell honey, we sell the furniture that we build from the trees that are milled in Keney Park. Yeah, we do a lot of different stuff, but it's a really good project. I think it's important for people in the community to see projects and programs that were created by people that grew up in the same areas that they did, came from the same neighborhoods they did. I went away to school, Connecticut College, came back, wanted to do something for the community, and this is kind of the culmination of that process. So, in a nutshell, that's my spiel. Is that good, Mike?
Yeah, great. All right. Luckily, I get here in time yesterday to buy seedlings. Because of all this, I didn't do my fall seedlings. Like, no lettuce for the fall. I gotta buy it. Not anymore. I bought a whole tray of his seedlings.
I didn't have the heart to tell them they weren't for sale, but it's Mike.
We weren't? Well. I'll bring up a head of lettuce.
No, you're fine.
Well, the name Hartford Blooms actually comes out of Knox's operation years ago. What happened is we went to Ireland, Mayor Mike, myself, and a bunch of council people. We saw how beautiful Ireland was. I turned to Mayor Mike and said, hey, Mikey, we got to do Hartford. It's got to look better than it looks. It's boring, but look at Ireland. So out of that came the idea of Hartford Blooms. And it became part of Knox, and Knox now puts out pots everywhere, all over the city, the beautiful pots that you see spring, summer, and fall. Anyhow, so it continues. The Hartford Blooms tours grew from that. And now we're going into our 9th year, imagine that, of tours. Now, a little bit about Knox said, I'm not the expert. I've been around too long to be an expert. Anyway, I'm going to ask Craig. Craig now has been with Knox quite a while. Before this, he was a riverfront recapture. So he knows Hartford better than I do. Craig?
Well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, we're excited that we're a community-based nonprofit organization that has been, I think, an important part of the neighborhood in terms of the work that we do involving the community with the overall green infrastructure and encouraging the community and members of the community to be involved with trees within the community, and community gardens. We're a community-based organization that loves getting people involved in educating them on how to grow fresh produce so that they, their friends, their relatives, their neighbors can also enjoy the fruits of their labors. So not only here on the property do we work with local farmers, but we work with out in the community with our 21 gardens throughout the city. So it's an important part, particularly when you look at things that are happening now with the pandemic, that people understand the importance of growing their own produce. And then the other aspects of Knox, which involves the green canopy in terms of trying to improve the overall wellness of the city and improving the canopy by planting trees, not only within our parks, but also trees for Hartford and individual neighborhoods and residents throughout the city. And then, of course, as Mike mentioned, the many pots that are throughout the entire city, which brings life and color and beauty and makes people feel good. That's the important piece that we try to produce and kind of showcase through Knox throughout the city so that people feel really good about Hartford. So we're very excited about being a part of the city in so many different aspects. So Knox kind of brings that whole green infrastructure throughout the whole entire city of Hartford.
Now, there's a little bit of history here. Way back when, Jack Hale, who was the executive director back then, well over 20 years ago now, 25 or so years ago, we had greenhouses out in Whiting Lane in West Hartford. Well, they had to be torn down, one reason or another, parking lot, in addition to the school, and they were stuck in a big box, those trailers. Well, because I was involved and I was on the city council, I got on my bicycle and decided I was going to bicycle the city of Hartford till I found a spot for those greenhouses. Very luckily, I turned right on Laurel and saw this big empty space. And the doors are wide open. And I went in, there was nobody around on a Saturday.
Yep.
So I went back to the city manager, said, hey, we got a problem. And she said, what are we going to do with that land? I said, give it to Knox. That's how it started. Then luckily, they had a friend on council that got some CBGB money. And over the years, they cooperated with the city. And the city owns this land still, but it's leased to Knox, probably forever. And it was just saved again. This land was saved, similar to land over in the Now Street Garden. This land was saved because it was supposed to be an exit for the viaduct project.
Yep.
But guess what? There's no viaduct project, and Knox is still here. Just about any time you can come and visit Knox and see the place. And if you'd like to get involved, I'm sure they'll let you get involved. Okay. So this is the greenhouse that was saved years ago. That was over in West Hartford and ended up here. And it's used a good part of the year. It's used especially for preparing flowers for the streets of Hartford. In the spring, into the summer, there are all kinds of flowers that go into these big, beautiful pots. Now, the fall is here, where we are now, and now we have the mums that are going in, and I'll let Craig explain where they're going to go and what they do.
So we're very excited that this time of the year we prepare our pots. We take the flowers from the pots that we place out in the community and replace them with these beautiful mums. So we're now in the process of changing everything over, and we go throughout the city. It brings a whole great feeling of fall throughout the city of Hartford. And if you're interested in anything more about Knox, 860-951-7641.
Now also what's here is what's called the community gardeners. Over the years, way back when, we had half a dozen of us or so worked in the late winter, early spring, to actually grow in a greenhouse. Well, that's been a program here for years and years, where people who don't have any space at their home or like to do a lot of space in a greenhouse, Knox would provide that service. And it was great. I remember the first year. It was January. We did January back then.
Yep.
We were in a big greenhouse, one of these. We're in the big greenhouse, and it was snowing outside. And right about February, I had a Garden of Delights. Me and a bunch of old characters. Now, a lot of those old characters God has taken. A few of us are still around. But we love to grow indoors. It was great. And that continues today, that we have people involved almost all year here at Knox, working in community gardens, working on their own specialties, and that's been great. Great history, and a lot better to come. Okay, hi, here we are at the Nile Street Community Garden, backed by Aetna and of course Knox Parks. Well, it used to be Knox Parks, now it's called Knox Inc. They do more than parks. Knox does community gardens all over the city, 20 some odd community gardens. One of the few that Knox actually owns is this one here on Niles Street, 17 Niles Street, if you ever want to come and drive around. Anyway, this garden has about 35 or 40 gardeners and 55 garden spots. Everything from exotic vegetables grown by the Karen community, people from Burma, I guess you would call it Burma, now it's called Myanmar, to stuff like I grow, tomatoes and flowers and peas and beans and all the rest. I have a garden here. Actually, I have 4 gardens. A little too much for an old guy like me. But we do a lot of stuff. We have apples in the garden. We have flowers of all kinds. We have many vegetables that you wouldn't expect here right in the middle of Hartford. Right smack dab in the middle of Hartford, right across from West Middle School. Of course, that was Katharine Hepburn's school across the way. And this now has been in operation almost 40 years as a community garden. We had a little trouble at one point. It was supposed to be a parking lot. So we had a real to-do about it. We got Aetna to give the garden to Knox, and it didn't become a parking lot. Imagine that. So it's a great place. As you're driving around town, take a little drive by it. In the tours this coming spring, many of the community gardens will be part of the various tours that we have for the tours next June. Right now, you're on your own. You can drive by, if you see somebody in the garden, say hello, and maybe take your own personal tour. Anyway, here we are. It's called the Niles Street Garden, Aetna's community garden. This is one of our hidden downtown gems. We have a lot of gardens downtown. Most of them no one knows about. This one's fairly well known. It's a great visit, the Butler McCook House and Gardens. The house itself you should visit. It's really terrific. But on a garden tour, we'll be in the June tours next year. We'll be coming here and we'll see their wonderful gardens. And it's constantly changing. Every season it changes. It's worthwhile look. You're downtown sometime. Make sure you stop in on your own. But when we come next June, you'll be able to see the garden. You'll be able to hear the whole story, the whole Butler McCook. Fantastic story, a lot of details, beautiful things, the house itself, but especially the gardens. Part of Hartford Blooms 2021. Well, about 20 years ago or so, I was asked to be part of the Friends and Enemies of Wallace Stevens. Well, Wallace Stevens is one of the best known poets in America. Very difficult to understand his poetry, but out of the effort came the Wallace Stevens Walk, which starts up in the West End and goes all the way down to the Hartford. Anytime you want to walk this, you can. You can park anywhere along here you find a good parking spot and just follow the 13 ways to see a blackbird. Now, it's poetry, 13 different stanzas that start again at the Hartford and go all the way over to his old home in the West End. Now, you look it up on the internet if you'd like. If you're interested in poetry or just like to take a nice long walk, you see, this tour that I go on, I find things like this and explain to you where they are. Then it's up to you to follow through if you'd like. So right now, one of the stanzas. Oh, thin men of Haddam, why do you imagine golden birds? Do you not see how the blackbird walks around the feet of the women about you? Well, I have no idea what that means. And most of Wallace Stevens' poetry, I have no idea what any of it means. But it's a stream of consciousness that's pretty cool. One of the great gems of Hartford that you find when you come on the Hartford Blooms tour, especially this year, Hartford Blooms Heritage 220. Well, thanks again for watching this video that we put together. Thanks to Stan for doing it. Thanks for all our participants. But our funders have really been helpful. Richard Garbony Fund out of the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, been with us all 9 years. And a new sponsor, a great one, is Land Rover Hartford. They're right at 75 Weston Street, the big car dealership street right up through the whole north end of Hartford, right along the highway. It's terrific. Just, I mean, if you can afford a Land Rover, good for you. They've used ones. Anybody can afford one of those. But anyway, you stop and see him. See his wonderful showroom. You'll be amazed. One of the most beautiful car dealerships I've ever seen. And he's a great guy. Mark Mitchell helped us do all this. Well, anyway, thanks again. Anytime you want to get a hold of her, she got all the information, give you any information you need. We can handle any size group or all the individual tours. Thanks again.